You're now listening to the smoothest podcast in the world, Cognac Small Talk, hosted by the connoisseur smooth, Anthony J.R.
What's going on, guys? I'm Anthony J.R. and welcome to Cognac Small Talk. It's a podcast series on how I personally feel we should be moving as creatives and business entrepreneurs. Once again, thank you guys, everybody, for the continued support on this new cover art, and everybody super excited for everything that's been going on. I have the pleasure of being here with a keynote speaker. She's the co-founder of Future for Us. Look at her just getting already excited.
I can't contain myself.
I'm here with Sage. How you doing today, Sage?
I'm doing great. This is such an honor to be here. I'm really excited.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. First of all, I wanna just catch up and see how everything's been going in general for you.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind marathon right now. You know, Future for Us, we launched on January 17th, and we've been rocking and rolling. We've been featured in Forbes twice. We just finished our Future for Us assembly last week with 300 women of color, like professionals, not only from Seattle but from San Francisco, LA, and Austin. So it was a historic day, and I'm so excited, and I'm still feeding off that energy. So I'm super excited to, you know, talk a little bit more about what we're doing, and also a little bit about you guys.
Nice. Yeah. So, you know, as of course, since we are on Cognac Small Talk, I want to go ahead and pour you up.
Ooh, this, you know? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
I got to, you know.
So smooth.
Something like that.
So smooth.
You know. And of course, it's like I said, there's some ice there if you want a little bit more ice.
I feel like a queen on a Saturday, guys. It's the best. It's the best.
And also, if you want to indulge in cigars, you can.
All right.
You got that right there. But yeah, so like I usually ask people all the time, when was their first time they had a glass of cognac, just to start it off? Like, do you remember the age? Do you remember whether you was at a party or?
Yeah. So the crazy part was actually when it was my great-grandfather's funeral about 3-4 years ago. So we drank his cognac from the 1940s. And I was drinking with my family, and especially my father, and we were just talking about how he was such a big, person in our family, and we were just drinking. I remember the good times. Like, my great-grandfather used to drop me off at school every morning, and I was just sipping with my father, and he also brought up some great memories. So that was the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you remember what type of cognac it was?
No idea. I just knew that it was in the 1940s, and I'm like, wow, I'm getting pretty drunk quick. Yeah. But it was very smooth, and I got to enjoy it with my father, and it felt like my great-grandfather was there, so it was really nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as I promised you when we were texting, when we were emailing, I told you, I know you've done several podcasts already, so I don't want to hit you with all the fluff, so we're going to kind of try to skip all of that today. And I want to, kind of do a deep dive analysis on, stuff that you got going on. But, prior to that, can you just give us a little background about, yourself? I know you're from Hawaii, but, what kind of made you come over to Seattle, or what made you start doing what you're doing in Seattle versus somewhere else?
Yeah, definitely. So my full name is Sage Kealohilani Quianmo. I make it a point to say my full name because I'm a proud Native Hawaiian woman from the island of Oahu. After I graduated from the University of Hawaii, I decided I needed to move. After being there for 22 years of my life, I had island fever. I'm sure a lot of people on the podcast who are the listeners are, if you're from a small town, you get it.
Yeah.
You want to switch it up. You want to challenge yourself. So I knew that I wanted to get outside of it. So I applied to all the big tech companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, etc. And I got offered a job in May 2013 at Amazon, and I packed up my bags. I told my parents I was moving 2 weeks before I actually moved, and made it happen because I'm just super ambitious. I want to learn from different cultures, different people, and that kind of brought me here to Seattle today. And I've been living here for 6 years, and super passionate about women's advocacy, pay equity, and how do we support women of color, because since the 2016 election, when Trump was elected to presidency, I knew that there needs to be something and resources for women of color to come together, because feminism, when it was created, wasn't intersectional.
Yeah.
So intersectionality means basically the cross lines, the social impact of race, gender, sexuality, disabilities, etc. And like, how do we make sure we're being inclusive in that? So we created Future for Us, and now we're here. And it's crazy.
Okay. I applaud you on that, just because I remember going to the launch party for that, and literally it was so crazy. It was to the point it was cool because it was like you guys had so much women there, and I felt like it was cool because Avi, Sora, Anthony Kerr, and a few other gentlemen were the only people that were there. But you guys just had like a plethora of women, just different colors, different races. So how was that experience like for you when you did that launch party and you were like in front of everybody and you were like, wow, it's something that we just created as an idea is now something that's an actual thing? Yeah,
it was electric. The energy in the room was phenomenal. You could not even imagine, especially in Seattle, which is a white dominant city, is that we packed about 250 people in a very small bar on Capitol Hill. And to the point where we had a line across the block, and they had to pull the garage doors up to have everybody in there. And it is very rare and unique to have people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different industries for one night to launch what which is Future for Us, a platform dedicated to advancing women of color work. And the thing is that our company is about empowering and also bringing up women of color like professional issues. And to have everybody in the community be there, we were intentional in every single invite.
Absolutely.
From different ages, from different industries, and that's what made it special. People still talk about that party today, and for me it was such a triumphant moment that we need this. We need Future for Us. We need our community to back us up.
And what would you say, I guess, to go backwards a little bit? The first time that I met you, I know that you weren't with Amazon, but you were working at Atlas Workbase, and then you was also a part of Ladies Get Paid. So how, like, first of all, kind of what made you, I would assume that leaving that, you kind of wanted to just start doing your own thing, but what would you say would be the reasoning behind leaving Ladies Get Paid? Because essentially, I wouldn't even say you guys do the same thing, but it's one of those things in which you were already a part of a great platform that was, already for gender equality and also for, women's rights, advocacy, all that type of stuff. So what kind of made you leave that to kind of do your own thing for that?
For sure, yeah. So Ladies Get Paid is a explosive women's organization that focuses on pay equity. 34,000 members across the U.S. and globally, I believe. They have been so tremendous in my career trajectory because they have really brought me around the country to teach salary negotiation classes. But through my experiences going to the South, going to different cities, and a majority of the women there were white women, and only 10% of my audience were women of color. And every time I would finish a class, the women of color would come to me and say, "Thank God that you are here. You are teaching the class, because I never see women of color teaching these classes. What if you can't see it, you can't be it." And I think for them, I knew that there are deeper issues when it comes to women of color professionals. We are only scratching the surface when it comes to Ladies Get Paid. It's like, yes, it's more general, but I know that women of color issues face different challenges and barriers, and that it involves differentiated solutions, because we not only are we discriminated against our gender, but also our race. So we also statistically have more caretaking responsibilities. We also have we get paid 20% less than our white counterparts, but we are also 21% more, and we are more ambitious than our white counterparts, according to the Women in the Workplace report that was launched last year by McKinsey and Lean. And if you are listening right now, please read the Women in the Workplace report 2018. It really shows you what it to the freaking T about what is really facing women of color to today. So I knew that we need all the resources. I think our biggest criticism is that we have all these women organizations. Like, why don't you guys just morph into one big company, right? That's what you're saying, just like with any other big tech company. But the problem is that human beings, we are so complex. We go through different challenges, and that's why we want to target women of color professionals cross-sector. There's black women in tech, there's Latinos in tech, but we are so tech-focused, but we're not even thinking about healthcare, marketing, finance, etc. So that's why Future for Us is here, is that we are focused on women of color professionals cross-sector. And that's why I'm super excited, because just from our, there was one woman who wrote me of a beautiful email about saying like, we had a voice, but you gave us a microphone, a platform to amplify. Thank you so much. I've never experienced this in my life. And to me, that is the change that we want to create and cultivate, the next generation of leaders.
Wow. So do you ever think that, you know, if there's guys like myself, you know, I'm all for, you know, women's rights and, you know, the gender equality and stuff, just knowing that, you know, it is unfair. How are ways that guys can kind of like support that? Like how can guys do that? Like I know that sometimes you guys may do events that are, you know, of course for women, but then like is it awkward for men to come to those type of events and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, it definitely isn't. We are so supportive of our allies and champions to come to our events. Some of them are women of color specific, but we have open events as well. We host events 3 times a month and then one big conference per quarter. Yeah. So we have our State of Women of Color that's going to be open for everyone November 7th at the Collective. We're super excited about that. But, you know, point in case what you're doing, you created this like stunning like platform and you're amplifying my words. That is allyship. We need more allyship, especially with POC men. Like this is what we're talking about. It's like generationally, we have to uplift our own communities, our own cultures, and we have to make a stance because existence is resistance, right? Like this is something that I'm truly passionate about because I'm also a big big champion for men. You know, like the things that men have to go through in terms of toxic masculinity, not being supported. You know, even also like where do you get to go to discuss your feelings or things like trauma, right? Like you guys have each other, but you know, for us, it's like I'm very empathetic and I want to create like a bridge between our allies and champions. So you being here and amplifying my voice and future for us, I mean, that's point in case. So if you have resources, look at your power, position, and privilege. Take audit of what you have and then take audit of what other people have. And if they if you could be of service to them, offer it. You DM'd me on Instagram like, hey, I would love to interview. And I said, hell yeah, let's do this. I would love to sip some cognac and talk about business. Like this is everything to me. Like, and we're culture shifters. We're the next generation. You and I are both young. We're under 30. You know, but we're creating platforms that are bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you ever feel like, you know, first of all, I want to say I appreciate that because those are, you know, us especially not being from Seattle itself, and it's like we're kind of building this thing in place that isn't our hometown. And sometimes it's kind of like, you know, wow, this is crazy because we're like big fish in small ponds, but then you're also kind of like, man, imagine the type of impact maybe I could have had if I did this in my hometown. You know, it's kind of like something that I always am thinking about. Do you ever think about that as well? Like what would be the difference in which if you did this back in Hawaii and had like your co-founder from there as well, or you just did it by yourself? Like, do you ever think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being a Native Hawaiian person who's big in community, I feel a lot of Hawaiian guilt. I'm sure a lot of Black and brown women out there feel like a lot of guilt, because especially when you move away from home. The thing of what's special about Seattle is that it's a emerging city. You know, 1,000 people are moving here every week. And the unique thing about us is that we are transplants coming into a city who wants to create a community and a platform. Like, you come from different like racial background. I come from a different racial background, but we are bringing culture to white dominant, like pretty much city. But we get to create it, and what privilege of us to have it. But I do definitely feel a little bit of guilt, but also I know that it would be different. What I'm doing here in Seattle is different from what it would be in Hawaii, because in Hawaii it's very isolating. But I hope to, you know, we got big plans for future for us. Some big expansion by the end of this year, but I'm gonna hold off on that good news. Okay,
cool. What would you say? This is one of the things that I had a question about when I came to the initial launch party and stuff like that. Do you ever feel like it's cringing for you, as far as you doing this for women of color, that there are also Caucasian women that truly support what you got going on, but then based off of what you're vocalizing, they could kind of feel, I don't know, some type of way because of the facts that you're providing, and kind of knowing that these, you know, Caucasian women have this privilege, but they're still here in my space and kind of like indulging in everything that I have to say. Do you ever feel like it's a little cringing for them to take that in, or?
I mean, my philosophy is be comfortable with being uncomfortable. As being a woman of color, as POCs, we are, every day it's uncomfortable for us. We are usually the only ones in the workplace, the only ones in restaurants, at bars, especially in Seattle. So for me, it's like, and also women, like white women have been one of our biggest champions and allies. I am going to say it right now on this podcast. We have about 2 white women on our advisory board. We had white women who are leading companies writing us checks. The two Forbes writers were white women, and I didn't have to pitch. I have a PR marketing background. I did not pitch anything, any media so far to date. Wow. These are people who are purely coming, messaging us on their own accord, saying, we want to write a feature about you. And for us, it's like we invite our allies and champions, especially white women, to our spaces, to our programming, because we understand that uplifting women of color is a collective effort. It is not on the backs of women of color only. Like, we need to support one another, but we are going to put the focus on women of color because we are the most marginalized to date. To know that 4% of women of color make the C-suite levels, like, that is intense. 20 women of color make 20% of the population in the United States, but take up 50% of the lowest wage jobs. That is ridiculous. And when I think about that, that's my great-grandmother. You know, that's my grandma. That's my mom. You know, my mom had to take care of 3 kids, put them to private school. We all had to get like full ride scholarships. And she was pregnant in college and graduated with a business degree. Took care of my father. Was the breadwinner. Took care of our grandparents, great-grandparents. And that's what I'm fighting for. Is that I never want to see another woman like my mother have to bear all that burden. And have a bigger discussion, and like, how do we create community that's supportive so we can thrive? You know, if women of color thrive, data shows that if women of color thrive, communities thrive. That's it.
Wow.
Sorry.
No, that's good. I like that, you know, because, you know, me as a guy, like, you know, sometimes we just don't really, you know, we don't know essentially like how to help in these type of spaces. It's like, you know, we can, as guys, we can come to these events, we can kind of say like, hey, you know, show everything like social media, promote, et cetera, but like, we don't really know the best way to really step in and help change that, because maybe we're not in the position to do so. Of course, we're not at the top of these companies and stuff like that, but how do you feel like, you know, guys can really like come in and really support and help make that change? Because, you know, like I said, essentially, you know, we may not, like myself or like friends that are, you know, males and stuff like that, we can come and support, but like, where does the change happen, or how can we make that change happen?
Definitely. So using your position, power, and privilege. So there's a spectrum of ways that you can be an advocate and ally. So I have this chart. First is an ally, and that's kind of low bar. That's the social media post that is like coming and showing up. An advocate is actually somebody who is going to. That was advocate. The next step is ally. Ally is actually going to take a personal like risk. This is somebody who's, for instance, if you have a female coworker, and if you see that somebody else in a team meeting is taking credit for this person's work, right? Or you see somebody that is talking over her, be like, hey, Cassandra, you are doing. That's a great idea. Let's talk about that. Can you talk about that more? And that is a ally. Somebody who's going to take a little bit of risk, but show affirmation, right? And the next is co-conspirator. So this is somebody who's actually plotting and mentoring somebody under them that is a woman and a woman of color. For me, my call on to men is to really to work on yourself. And this is not just for men. This is for everyone. Is that the true change is when you change yourself. You really need to understand where your unconscious bias comes from. Where does your past trauma come from? And then also understand, you know, like, how do you affect the world? What do you have? What is the privilege that you hold? What resources that you have that you could give away, right? And that's kind of how you support. When I talk about allies as well, allyship means writing the checks.
Yeah.
Like I'm over like I've been pitching over 100 times since December. Okay.
Yeah.
We've been raising. Our goal was 150K by the assembly, and we're ready. You know, if you are trying to be an ally, we call like open up your checkbooks and give us the power.
Yeah.
You know, all of us is that we're working twice as hard, 10 times as hard to get a little bit of what you have. I mean, that's what my dad has always told me. He told me at like, I think 12 years old, he's like, look at here, kid. You are going to have to work twice as hard to get anything what these other people have. And I took that to heart. As most women of color, most POCs know, you have that talk with your parents that you have to be excellent. You have to be excellent. And I know I'm going on a rant here, but basically being able to show up is one, to promote is two, writing checks and supporting with money. That's how you can show up.
Okay, and I have a double question for on top of that. So, me being a business owner, you know, with Laidback Galore and the stuff that we have going on, I think like, you know, what we're doing is great for the community, but I also feel like how you just mentioned about, you know, you being able to pitch to these companies like, hey, open up your checkbook, like if you want to kind of help and support what we have going on, like, you know, give us this money, you know what I'm saying? So how did you learn how to like really start deep diving and negotiating and be able to put yourself in a position to talk to these execs and talk to these people to know like, hey, I can get $5K from this company, $10K from this company, $100 from them. Like, how do people, like, not even business owners in general, but maybe just creatives, like, how can they put themselves in a position to be able to negotiate that type of money?
Definitely. So, 3 different ways. One is that I learned when I was a little girl, I would watch my father, being a guy who didn't go to college, knew like 6 different languages, and the way that I saw him move around the island, like he would go to Chinatown and talk Cantonese and Mandarin to the aunties and like negotiate with them. He would go to the Samoans, like our Samoan cousins, and would talk to them about. And I could just see how he took care of people, but also negotiated different things. He knew how to provide for his family through different methods of like talking to the community. So I knew at a young age of how to negotiate and how do you tap into people and tap into different communities to kind of support one another. Third was speech and debate. I was in speech and debate in high school. It's kind of nerdy, but whatever. English is my second language. I really had trouble with speaking. I grew up in a Catholic school. They put us on the altar and they're like reading St. Paul, blah, blah, blah. And then that's how Oprah got her big break too, is that we really had to put yourself as, you have to practice your pitch, practice public speaking, because that's how you're going to be a better negotiator. That's how you're going to be a better arguer. You're going to craft the right argument to get what you want. So my father, from being able to speak different languages and to different communities, 2, speech and debate, and 3, I used to be in real estate development. So the crazy thing about, I know, I used to be in real estate development.
You used to do a lot of things.
I mean, that's the thing, is that like, kids think that you're supposed to know what you're supposed to do at the age of like 19 or when you get out of college. That is not true. Go out there and try different things. Take risks. This is the point of it. And that's what I did, is that I tried a bunch of, I did corporation, I did startup, I did real estate development. And real estate development, I was hearing deals constantly. Like my bosses, like they were making $100K per month, okay? Doing land acquisition deals, making deals with builders, okay? So I knew what the big money were, these deals were happening, right? I also knew the power of the pause. When you ask for a certain amount of money, you literally pick up a glass of water, you set it down, and you hold yourself from being like, oh, never mind, I'll take 20K. Because everybody gets really insecure about, that's the best sales strategy, tip I can give everybody.
Say that name once again, the power of the pause?
Yeah, it's the power of the pause. So you say, for instance, if you're negotiating your contract, or you're negotiating on your salary, you say, I want to make 120K. What does that sound like? And then you take a pause, you sip your water, or your cognac, and you let it sit. Because what happens is that we are so anxious to be like, oh, never mind, I'll just take the deal. You have to pause and let that number settle. The best sales guys, I'm telling you, I met the best sales guys, and they have been my biggest advocates. I call them Dan the man, and Dan has really taught me. He's been an ally. We give each other shit, but what I learned through that friendship is that like how to really be a great negotiator. And the best negotiators know how to walk away from the deal, though. So if it's not working out for you, you walk away.
Yeah.
That's the best negotiator when they know how to do that. So that's kind of how I knew, kind of my strategy throughout I'm 28 years old. That's how I figured out how to negotiate. And I'm really happy about that. And, I think I really want people to understand the power of the pause. The best negotiators know when to walk away, and the best negotiators know know their numbers. So walk into the room knowing your 3 key numbers. 1 is your bottom line. So the bottom line is something that you're going to walk away if it's less than.
Yeah.
2 is your feel good number. Okay, your feel good number is a number that you're like, okay, I think I can deal with this. 3, I like to call it as your fuck you number. So your fuck you number is basically your highest number that you can say with a straight face, like something that you're like, oh my god, I don't know if that's right. Am I worth that much? And then you just say it, right? And that's your fuck you number. So know your numbers, power of the pause, and then basically, best negotiators know how to walk away from a deal.
Do you? Is there a way that maybe this might be? I don't know. Maybe this might not work right now. But is there a way that I could like test that with you?
My God, yeah. Like, what do you mean? Like, do a negotiation strategy?
Yeah, like a negotiation strategy. Like, I think like with me, it's one of those like I want to be able to talk to these people about like, hey, like, I got something good going on, and I need you to put some money into this, and I know that I can add value to your business, whether it's like activating your spaces, bringing more people to buy your food, bringing more people to buy your drinks. I need you to put some money into what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I guess like I kind of want to just try it out, like with you. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, Sage's Bar, right? Sage's Bar, for a fact that you allow different entities, different organizations and stuff to come in and activate your space. But for me, for Laid Back Galore, we want to build some type of partnership in which we know that, hey, if you're able to provide us, let's say, $5K, if you gave us $5K in whatever way, whether it's like, through payment of like open bar or food or just money to help us bring back to you, I want to be able to be that person to kind of like know that it's gonna work. So how would I guess like my thing is like, how would I be able to like, I don't know, like you know what I'm saying? Like because I know like it's like there's like like to go back to me, it's like there's all these companies that want to work with us, or these different brands that want to work with us, but then after they always say they don't have a budget. They always say they don't have a budget. They always say like, hey, yeah, we can't afford that. Like, just because we like, but it's also one of those things where it's like, hey, you guys are looking for people to, create some content for you guys. You guys are looking for people to bring into your space. Why don't we have some type of trade-off in which if you're putting money into us, we're investing it back into you. Definitely. So how could I like set that up for me to be able to have that conversation with the person, whether it's the manager, the owner, CEO, etc.?
Definitely. So number one is to do a market analysis. So do a market landscape analysis. So who are the businesses that you are trying to target?
Yeah.
Are they hotels? Are they small restaurants? Are they co-working spaces? So understanding what their cost per event looks like.
Yeah.
So really deep dive into like understanding where do they get their money from, right? So if you want $5K, where is that bucket of money coming from? Is it from their marketing PR department? Is there actually from, do they have a separate budget for, client services or whatever?
Yeah.
So getting an understanding of the market landscape.
Yeah.
So understanding their businesses, their numbers, where you can go and target their budget money. Because that's where we come from. We go to different corporations, startups, and we kind of dip into different buckets of recruiting budget or the diversity, equity, inclusion, etc. etc.
Yeah.
So understanding that, number one. Number two, creating a pitch deck. So, or a media kit. So number one is understanding what do you bring to the table? What does Laid Back Allure bring to the table? How many media hits did you get? Were you on national or local news? How many people show up per event? Who shows up to your event? If you are a community full of influencers, tally up how big the reach is.
Yeah.
You know, on Instagram, if I have 100 people coming to Laid Back Allure every month, and each person has about, I don't know, 20, 30K,